Today we're going to go over the top 10 mistakes to avoid when writing sex scenes in romance novels. Now, if you ever ask me what I am good at when it comes to writing, 100% it is outlining. I'm excellent at writing very detailed outlines for a book. And 2 is writing sex scenes. So I don't know if you know this, but in the co-authored book, Snow and Her Seven Seals, I wrote 100% of all of the sex scenes. Now, Alana did try to write some, but I kept vetoing her just because I liked my sex scenes better. And honestly, I think it just helped with consistency throughout the book. So let's go over what I think are the top 10 mistakes that I see a lot of books making when they're writing sex scenes in romance novels and how you can avoid them so you can have awesome sex scenes in your book. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, best-selling romance author of the Cinderella and Her Seven Guards series, and on this channel we talk all about romance writing, specifically for newbie and aspiring romance authors. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Monday. Now today we're going to be talking about sex scenes in romance books, and again, these are, I'm thinking like full-length romance novels. I used to write, before I ever started writing romance, I wrote short 10,000-word erotic romances. So think of Alexa Riley. That's almost 100% exclusively all she writes is 10,000-word short stories. It has a very definite formula of what happens in chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4 for a very satisfying read for your reader. However, it didn't really work out well for me, and my books were banned, and I was put in what's called the Amazon dungeon, where technically my book is still there, but it is not searchable in the search engine. So those books have all been deleted. I don't even have them. I started a new profile because the other profile didn't work. But my point is that I have written a lot of sex scenes. So even if you pick up any of the Snow books, those each have, I think, 5 or 6 sex scenes. Same thing with Cinderella. Sex scenes just seem to come naturally to me. But more importantly, which brings us to point number 1, is I read a lot of sex scenes. And when I say sex scenes, we're talking about heat level 1 through 5. I'm talking about level 5. Now, if you're not familiar with heat levels, make sure to watch my other video on what really defines a 1 versus a 5. But basically 1 is we're not doing anything. It's very platonic. Versus 5, which is anything goes in very graphic detail. So number 1 is if you want to write romance, you need to read a lot of romance. But more specifically, if you want to write sex scenes with a very high heat level, you need to read a lot of sex scenes with a very high heat level. So there are book blogs out there that will put books into the different heat levels and categorize them for you that way. And I would definitely start there if that is something that you feel like you haven't read a lot. And when I say a lot, I'm talking like hundreds. I've possibly read, no joke, thousands of sex scenes. And that's probably because I've been reading sex scenes for decades now. So I'm not saying you need to do that, but I would read at least 100 different sex scenes within the heat level that you would like to write in. The second thing is writing the wrong type of sex. So if you're like, just like romance, you're making a promise to the reader, whether it's a romantic comedy or romantic suspense or action, there better be action inside of there. Or if it's comedy, you better have some laughs inside of there. Same thing with your heat levels or the type of sex. If you promise BDSM, there better be some whips and chains in there. If you are promising plain vanilla sex, there better not be any whips and chains in there. So make sure that you are being consistent throughout your description, your cover, the way you describe your characters and their mannerisms and their thoughts when it comes to the final sex scene. It shouldn't be like one of those weird surprises. Number 3 is don't use porn for inspiration. I hear people joking about this, and this is a terrible idea, and 100% it's just a huge no, because porn is very different. You start right away into the scene, no buildup, or if it is buildup, it's kind of weird fake buildup or kind of a parody, and that's not what you're writing when it comes to a romance. Number 4 is insta arousal. So I think when readers complain that they want a book with a slow burn, I think it's because the author has jumped in all of a sudden and they the characters are having sex right away, or she's instantly really wet. He's hard in 2 seconds. And so everyone's ready to go. And you need some sort of chemistry, some back and forth, some give and take. So good sex scenes are usually, like when I write sex scenes, they're about 3,000 words. Normal chapters are only 2,000 words. And the reason it's so long is because I think there needs to be a long buildup. There needs to be some dialogue in there. There needs to be some inner thoughts. There needs to be some, I might do it, I might not do it. So there shouldn't just be, let's wham bam, let's go. Same thing, number 5, which is insta orgasms. So I think these two, number 4 and number 5, stem from people who are not comfortable writing sex scenes because either their editor has told them to do that, or they think it's going to trend and make their book seem hotter or steamier or be more popular. And so when they come to the sex scene, they just want it to end as soon as possible because they don't enjoy writing that. So honestly, if you don't enjoy writing sex scenes and it's not something you want to, one, read a lot of or invest your time into learning, take it out. Your book doesn't need it. You can have closed door sex. You could have a heat level of 1. You don't need to put it in there. And especially, I think it's worse to put it in there and write a bad sex scene than have closed door sex, in my opinion, and I think many other readers. Number 6 is when you do a mechanical sort of description. So you're basically just reporting back, like a car accident. Like the car came from the left side and the right car was the other car going perpendicular was already going, the light was green. And so what happens sometimes in these mechanical sex scenes, they are just describing body parts and they're describing movements and there's no sort of emotion. There's nothing else inside of there. And these are not exciting to read. And I can usually tell, and I know people will be upset that I say this, but sometimes I can tell that the author is a guy because for whatever reason, men will tend to write more mechanical sex versus more of the emotional sex. It's obviously a generalization, but I have been right 10 times out of 10. So just something to be aware of. And again, I really believe sex writing can be learned. In fact, I do have a sex writing workshop that I will talk to you about at the end. But, it takes practice and it takes studying, just like any other part of writing. And I think because it's sex, people are uncomfortable, they're ashamed, or they just feel like weird about it. I think that's why people aren't writing better sex scenes because no one's really comfortable talking about it. But let's move on with our list. So number 7 is using banned words. Now, I talked to you and I said in the beginning that I loved writing different erotic books, and those were very like kink fetish books. So I was using a lot of terms that are banned right now today, as well as things or situations that were questionable. So why did I do that? Because they sell well. Plain vanilla sex when it comes to erotic romance doesn't really sell as well. So I have put together a list for you. So you can download that free list below of words that are banned by Amazon. So if this is something you're just not sure of, or you're not sure what words to or not to use, I've kind of put a little collection together through the years. And again, this is all anecdotal data that I have gathered from talking to other erotic romance writers, as well as just things that have happened to me that Amazon wrote back and said that's just not allowed. So number 8 is personality, like split personality changes. So when you are writing a character in a romance, he is either, very sweet or he's very alpha and gruff. And when it comes to the sex scene, it should be the same. I don't know why people think it's okay to have somebody who's alpha in the book, like an alpha guy, and then all of a sudden when it comes to the bedroom, he's really shy and kind of weird about it. You should stay consistent in that character, whether they are having sex, they're going to the movies, they're going to dinner, he's interacting with his boss, he's meeting her friends. Sex should be no different. And, I think when you write a sex scene that doesn't reflect your characters, it almost looks like you copied and pasted that sex scene from another book, or you just you think that's going to be appealing. That's not going to be appealing. Your readers like your character and they're still reading your book up until that point because they like their personality and how they interact and they want it to be the same inside of the bedroom as well. What I mean by that is if you have a beta male and he is nice and caring and sensitive throughout the whole book, when he meets her friends, when he takes her to restaurants, when he meets her parents, when he interacts with her or anything else, all of a sudden in the bedroom, when they start to get intimate, he can't turn into some super alpha BDSM guy who like tells her, screams at her to get on her knees and pulls her hair and drags her around the room. That is not sexy. So I think what happens is because he's so beta and then you have to write a sex scene, it's almost like unless he's really alpha, you think that's not attractive or sexy. And I see this happen a lot where the personality just totally takes a complete 180 and everyone's a little confused. So definitely stay away from doing that. Number 9 is interjecting non-romance thoughts or discussions during sex. So I told you my sex scenes are long. They're about 3,000 words. And that's because there's a lot of inner dialogue as well as chit chat back and forth, but it's all related to the romance or to the sex. It is not, hey, did you take out the garbage today? Oh, should we make an appointment for little Joey tomorrow to go to the orthodontist? And I see this a lot. I don't know why. You're trying to move the story forward and you have another plot that isn't related to the love story and it has to do with romantic suspense or with the kid that they share together, and you're throwing that into the sex scene. I don't understand that. I see that a lot. So for sure, that discussion should happen later. Maybe the next morning when they're in bed and just reminiscing about the night before. But 100% it shouldn't happen during the actual sex. Number 10 is focusing too much on bodily fluid. I am, even though I love writing sex scenes, I am totally grossed out by reading about a ton of bodily fluid. And I don't know why people will focus on this. It's not really appealing. Again, I think it's something more to do with if it's written from a male perspective or if it's written by a man, then there seems to be a really big influence on really big focus on this, and there really shouldn't be. So it's a book for women, written by women, and bodily fluid, I don't think anyone's really excited by that. All right, so let's just recap that list because we talked about a bunch of different things. So the first one is you need to read a lot of sex. Like I'm talking like hundreds of scenes within the particular heat level that you want to write in. The second thing is writing the wrong type of sex. So if you have a BDSM book that you've promised, then make sure that's the kind of sex that you're including in that book and vice versa. So don't use porn as inspiration. You're not going to get any ideas from that or get any great scenes from that either. Number 4 and number 5 kind of go together. It's insta arousal without having to work for it. And number 5 is insta orgasms. Same thing, just happen out of the blue. Nobody had to do anything. It's just because they're two attractive characters. Number 6 is a mechanical description, like a car accident report where you're just talking about the body parts and the places that they're going. That's not at all exciting. Number 7 is using banned words. And again, I do have a free cheat sheet you can download. And number 8 is creating split personalities for your characters so that they're one way every day and one way in the bedroom. That works great in song lyrics, not so great in an actual book. Number 9 is interjecting non-romance thoughts and dialogues about the weather or whether or not someone took out the garbage during actual sexual scenes. And number 10 is focusing way too much on bodily fluids. All right. I hope that was helpful. And again, like I said, if you are interested in learning how to write better sex scenes, because 100%, I believe this can be taught. I believe it can be something you can study and get better at. I am doing a small workshop. It is a premium workshop, so it is paid because I will be reviewing what you wrote and giving you feedback each week. It's a four-week workshop. So each Monday, a new lesson will drop. You'll get an assignment, and then the next week, I will grade it for you. So if you're interested, make sure to sign up below. I have a link for that, so you'll get the early bird rate. Like I said, I'm going on, I don't know if anyone watches me on Instagram stories, I'm going on hiatus for the entire month of August and possibly September. So that class will kick off on October 1st. All right. Super excited to see you in class, and I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys next Monday. Bye.